Hello everyone, if you don't know me, my name is Kendra. I make videos on story times, art progressions, and college tips, and today I did want to make my first college tips video. Basically what I'm going to be doing is reviewing some of my old college tip TikTok videos and kind of just explaining them a bit more and going into a little bit more depth. So I don't even have these pulled up. So good planning, Kendra. So my first school-related TikTok was like my 5th TikTok ever. I did make some TikToks like based on my note-taking from my iPad, which I will go into a little bit of more detail about that as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna watch the video and then I'll put it up in the top corner of the screen or over my face or something so that you guys can watch it, and then I'll just go into a little bit more depth about explaining what I'm talking about in the video and giving more tips because you can only fit so much into a minute. Okay, so this is the first one.
Here's a list of things I suggest you get as an incoming college freshman based on my 4 years at the University of Tennessee. This is a Thread wallet. This is the best thing to use to carry around your student ID, credit cards, or any extra cash that you may have. You just slide your card in the middle like this and it'll scan through the wallet if you need to scan into your dorm or etc. This mesh laundry bag is the best thing to have if you're going to be doing laundry on campus. It's great for small things like socks and underwear, and it protects your belongings if someone happens to take your laundry out of the washer or dryer. Speaking of laundry, those washers can really stink, so what I did is I got bleach. You can get it for like really cheap at Walmart or Target, and poured it into a separate container and took that to the laundry room with me, and I poured it in where the bleach goes. Another great thing to have on campus is a reusable cup. The Starbucks on campus at UT will give you a discount on specialty drinks, like 20% off if you use these. Also, it saves the environment.
I like how I had to say you slide your card in the middle. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to use a wallet. Anyway, okay. So I don't have my Thread wallet up here with me, but I still have the same one that I used in this video. I still use that even though I've already graduated, just because it is so convenient to carry around rather than like carrying around a whole purse. I only carry like credit cards, my ID, and I had my student ID at the time, and I just slide cash in like the front pocket of it, and I've never had anything fall out of the front pocket, knock on wood. But I've never had anything fall out of the front pocket, and I have 2 lanyards on mine just because I couldn't decide which one to use because I think they're both really cute. The lanyard fits over your wrist, and I just carry it around just like by itself with my car keys. So I just think that's way more convenient than carrying around an entire purse just with that in it, or just with random stuff that I don't need in the purse that makes it heavy. Like, there's just stuff, like if I'm just gonna run to town really quick, it's so much easier and so much more convenient just to carry that wallet. Now for school specifically, my student ID did scan through that wallet, but the catch is, if you have cards with chip readers also in the wallet, there will be some interference in like your door trying to scan your student ID card. So it will scan, but it won't recognize that as the only thing being scanned. Like the chip cards would also try to scan. So it wouldn't always work in the card. Most of the time I would just have to take the student ID out and scan it by itself. But if you didn't have any like interference with other credit cards or chips or anything in your wallet, then it would probably just scan by itself. And also what I would do with the with the wallet itself, I would just stick it in the side pocket of my backpack, like where the water bottles would go. I had a side pocket dedicated just for that stuff, like my headphone case and my wallet and my car keys. And I would like shove it way down in there so that nobody could like yank it out of the side pocket or whatever. And it was just easy access for that stuff rather than having to take my backpack off every time I tried to reach for my wallet because it had my student ID in it. It was so much easier just to have it accessible in that side pocket where I could just grab it out really quick. And same with the headphones and everything like that. Like I had regular like card holders for my ID, but it doesn't hold all the other stuff like your driver's license or your credit cards or your cash or whatever else. And I just don't prefer to have something like around my neck, like a lanyard. I would just prefer something that goes on my wrist. So that's why I really like the Thread wallets. And they come in a variety of different colors, and they have a checkerboard one for UT, which is really awesome. So the second point I make in that video is about the mesh laundry bags. Actually, there's a lot of laundry tips I make in that first video, and that's just because over the 4 years that I stayed in the dorms, I did laundry and I lived solely in the dorms for 5 days out of the week, every week. So I kind of just caught on to some of the things that were really helpful and useful in terms of using a community laundromat. So the mesh laundry bag is kind of just a sock and underwear bag. And I would put like all of my socks, all of my underwears, all my bras in there. And not only does it prevent your bra hooks from getting stuck on any of your other clothing items in the washer or dryer, but it also prevents you from losing any individual socks or underwear or whatever while you're getting your laundry out of the washer and moving it into the dryer. UT only had, in the basement of the dorm that I stayed in, 8 washers and 8 dryers. And there was like 4 floors of students, co-ed. So there would be a lot of times where even if I was there like a minute after my laundry was done in the washer, somebody would already be taking my clothes out of the washer so that they could use it. And when they do that, you lose a lot of clothing items. So even if they have the best intentions and they just want to use the washer, they would like, sometimes I would lose a sock from them doing that, or another clothing item. And it was just easier if they're going to take your laundry out of the washer or dryer, like when the cycle is over, for them to just remove one bag of small items. Because it's so much easier to not, just to have that peace of mind knowing that at least if they take it out, all of your small items are in one place. And I had like eyeglass cleaning rags that are like this big, and I would lose those all the time too, especially when other people would take my clothing items out of the washer or dryer. And I'm not saying like don't be that person, because I know a lot of people would like forget their laundry in the washroom and leave their laundry in the washer or dryer for like hours on end. Don't get me wrong, that's annoying too. But at least give me like 5 or 10 minutes to get to the laundry room to get my clothing items, you know? So, and I would set a timer. I'm always like, every single time I would do my laundry, washing or drying, I would always set a timer based on how long it told me the wash cycle or drying cycle would be. So it's not like as if I would just wing it and just go whenever just to check on my laundry. Like I always set a timer to make sure that I wasn't taking up anybody else's time so that they could get their clothes washed or dried. And also, whenever you are setting a schedule to do your laundry, I would plan my class schedule out first, and then I would always set my laundry day on a day when I was going to be at the dorm for the rest of the night. So like say my classes ended at like 3. So I have from 3 until the time I go to bed to be at my dorm to do my laundry. So I would always set my laundry days on the times when I got out of class the earliest. That way I'd have plenty of time, just in case the laundry room was crowded, to do my laundry that day. And also any other cleaning tasks that needed to be done like around my room. It's always a good idea to kind of scope out the laundry room to make sure that if you are doing laundry on a really busy day where a lot of other people are doing their laundry, just to make sure that you are getting your laundry in and out really fast and not holding up any of the washers or dryers. Also, if you notice that one day is busier than some of the others, you might just want to pick a different day to do your laundry. No shade on UT or UT's campus, but here's the tea. The dorm that I stayed in was relatively new. Like when I was a freshman, it was a brand new building, and I entered in 2016. And by like my sophomore or junior year, the washers in that washroom started to smell really bad. And I don't know, like, I know they had time during breaks, like during summer break and fall break and spring break and everything like that, to just run a cleaning cycle through those washers, but I don't think that was ever done. So, like my clothes, when they come out of the washer, they would smell like mildew and like mold, just from them being used so much, I think. So what I would do to kind of kill the smell was I would get some vinegar. And I just got a big jug of vinegar, but I would put a little bit of vinegar in like a Sprite bottle or a separate bottle, a smaller one, to take with me to the laundry room. And what I would do is I would just pour a little bit of vinegar in like the slot where the bleach goes in the liquid slot of the washer. And I also used the In-Wash scent boosters that you just sprinkle inside the washer. My favorite ones are like the pink ones or the blue ones from, I think it's Bounce or some other brand. I don't know. But those smell really, really good. And it made all of my clothes smell fantastic. None of them smelled like mold after that, especially not after using the vinegar. Like, I would always get compliments on how good my clothes smell just from the vinegar and the scent boosters. And it just really just makes everything smell really clean, which I love. So that's one way to work around like stinky washers, because I'm sure my building was not even old, so I'm sure like some of the older buildings, if you're staying on campus, are gonna have some older washers and dryers and they might stink. So, and I don't know about you, but I just cannot stand the smell of mold, and if you're allergic, then that's a whole other thing on its own. Okay, so if you have watched my last video that I posted 2 weeks ago about graduating during a pandemic, I talked about how Starbucks on campus would allow you to use reusable cups and you would get a reusable cup discount. So again, that would save you like $1. Junie. No. Come on. And that would save you like $1 off of your Starbucks drink purchase, or like 60 cents or something. And it would depend on like drip coffee or specialty drinks, how much it would save you. So before coronavirus, I would always bring a reusable cup. Not only is it better for, you don't have to use all those single-use plastic cups or straws or anything, but also it saves you money to do that. And Starbucks had the water bottle refill stations with like clean filtered tap water that you could just put your water bottle under and it would sense, and you could just get a whole bottle of fresh clean water. So and that really encouraged, I think, a lot of students to not use like bottled water or like single-use plastic bottles. So the same with the Starbucks on campus, but obviously it'll have to be until after coronavirus that you use the reusable Starbucks cups. So yeah, now we're gonna get into the second video.
College Tips, Transportation Edition. If you're someone who hasn't picked their college yet, make sure that when you go on the campus tour, you keep track of where the dorms are in comparison to where the classes are. If you already know what you plan on majoring in, make sure to ask the tour guide where most of those classes take place. Also ask the tour guide about transportation options such as buses or bicycles or scooters. If you're someone who has already picked their school and their dorm room and their major, make sure that before the first day of classes, you actually go to campus and walk the class route that you'll be doing on the first day. Many schools offer a tour of campus before classes actually start, and I utilized this when I was a freshman. Another great thing to have is this Rider app. You can program it to show you the routes that the buses take on campus, and it'll tell you where the buses are in comparison to where you are. It'll also tell you how long it should take for the bus to get to you.
Okay, so the first thing I mentioned in that video has to do with whenever you go on a college tour. Nobody told me this, and I wish that I would have like thought of it before when I was going on college tours. Whenever you are going on tour, make sure to keep a mental note in your mind about where most of the dorms are compared to where most of the classes are. So not only will this kind of help you determine which dorm you want to apply for a room in, but also if you know what you're going to be majoring in, you can ask the tour guide where most of those classes take place and in like what major buildings they take place in, so that you can kind of plan like your route from your dorm to the classes and back. And then also like a lot of the dorms, especially at UT, will have bike racks that you can keep your bicycle on. You do have to buy a bike lock to make sure that nobody takes it, and also get something to keep your seat dry, like a trash bag or something. You can keep your bike there and you can use that for your main source of transportation. Just recently, like my senior year of college, we got some of those like rechargeable battery powered scooters that you can rent for like 10 cents a mile on campus. And you can pretty much leave them anywhere. They have GPS trackers in them, so it'll tell you where the closest one is, and you walk to it, rent it for 10 cents a mile, and you can use that on campus. And then once you get to class, just leave it outside of the building and then somebody else will pick it up. And then I think somebody takes them to charging stations at night. I'm not sure if that's the rider or if there's like someone who comes and does that, because I've never rented one before. But they do have those options sometimes, so ask your tour guide if those are an option on campus. Also, most colleges, if they're big enough, will have bus systems. So UT has a bus system that will take you to different places on campus depending on the route. So the main route is called the Hill, and that will take you all the way up to the Hill, which is where most of the science and math classes and physics classes are, and then it'll take you all the way back down and around to where most of the dorms are concentrated. So at 6 o'clock, the Hill route stopped running, and you had to walk everywhere, or you could take the night route. There was a couple different routes on campus, and if you get the Rider app like I showed in the TikTok, you can type your school name in, and you can select which routes. You can see all the routes that are available, and you can select which routes would be most prevalent to you. So I only had 2 routes programmed in my Rider app, and that was the Hill and the night route. So the night route started at 6 o'clock whenever the Hill route would end, and it would take a longer route, like around to the apartments in the backside of campus, but it would also go past my dorm. It would go through like Sorority Village and the Ag campus, and then to like those apartments that are on the backside, like behind the library. So if you didn't want to walk at night, especially like if you're alone on campus and you just don't want to walk, you don't feel safe walking alone, or you don't have anybody to walk with you, just stop at one of those bus stops, and doesn't matter if it takes you a little bit longer, just wait it out until it gets back to your dorm. So that's what I would do, especially if I had like a tutoring session or a late class or like a test.
Hello. I also want to mention that UT has a lot of like free tutoring that you can utilize, especially for the tougher classes like chemistry. And there's no shame in taking any of those tutoring classes. They're often done by like TAs of the class, and they'll host like 1 or 2 study sessions a week that you can go to, and they're only an hour long. And they will provide you with packets to follow along with the tutoring with, and you can take them home and study with them. Like I said, they're free. They're included in the cost of your tuition pretty much. And I went to chemistry tutoring twice a week for like 7 semesters. It helped me immensely. I really had no chemistry background before I entered college. So it helped me so much, and there's no shame in going to them. It's super helpful. And they're just really useful. And also, do not forget to bring snacks. Have them in your dorm room at all time, because the cafeterias at UT close at 8 o'clock. So past 8 o'clock, you are on your own for food, unless you want to go to a restaurant. And a lot of the restaurants are kind of far away from like where I was staying in my dorm room. So it's really nice just to have something convenient in your fridge that you can snack on until you can have breakfast the next morning.
At night, I would just stop at the closest bus stop to that building and wait for the night bus. Also, the Rider app will tell you, it will show you the locations of all of the different buses on the route. So a lot of times the Hill would have like 4 or 5 different buses, so you didn't have to wait longer than like 10 or 15 minutes for a bus to get to you, sometimes less. The late night route would usually only have 1 or 2, even though it's a longer route, so it would take around 30 minutes for a bus to get to you sometimes. So what I would do is I would just walk to like the closest building, like the library, and there would be a stop outside of the library, and then when the bus got close to me on the map, I would walk out to the stop and get on the bus. Also, the Rider app, if you click on the closest bus to you, it'll give you a time estimate of when that bus will arrive to you. And it'll show you like where the stops are too. So I'm sure this is true of other schools as well, but there's an app you can get for UT's campus specifically, and I forget what it's called, but they'll tell you during orientation, I believe. And you can program it to alert certain contacts in your phone about when you were supposed to arrive home, and it'll alert them if you don't arrive home. So it has a GPS tracker that uses your phone as a GPS tracker. And you can set it to be like, I should be at this destination at this time, and if you're not there at that time, it'll immediately alert your emergency contacts, or the police, or both. So that's a really good tool to have as well if you are planning to be somewhere at a certain time, like back at your dorm, and you want to take the late night bus, or if you want to walk. The Rider app will also tell you how long it should take to get to your destination. So just program the safety app to say that you should be back at your dorm at like 9:30 or something, based on the projections on the Rider app, how long it should take to get to your stop. And then if you're not there at that time, it'll alert the police, and it'll also alert your contacts. Or if you know you're going to be a little bit later, you can cancel it yourself. So that's really a good, safe way to get around on campus. And it makes it so that you're using the like buses that UT provides on campus rather than like an Uber or a taxi. So you know it's a little bit safer. Oh, I also mentioned in that video that most campuses, I believe, will have like around the time of orientation, like a couple days before class, they will have tours done by like some of the ambassadors of the school or somebody who is in like certain clubs. And they will take you on a tour around campus and show you like where all of your class buildings are. So if you show them your schedule, they will physically walk you all around campus and show you where your classes are. And some of them will even take you inside the building and show you like exactly where the room is. So that's something I definitely utilized as a freshman at UT. The day before classes, I obviously was already moved into my dorm. And so I went down to the event and I got in with a group of people that were going to relatively the same areas on campus. And we basically just walked each other's schedules with one of the tour guides. And they provide water and snacks and all kinds of stuff for you. And like free like apparel and like shirts, little gadgets, things like that, just as like an event. Yeah, and they just walked me literally around to all of where my class buildings were. So it was extremely helpful. It's definitely something that you should utilize if you're going to UT or a similar school that's like really large. Because it was really intimidating for me just to show up on a large campus and not have any idea where anything was or even how to read building codes. The building codes is like a whole separate thing on its own. So if you're going to UT specifically, I know that there's a list of building codes, and if you just Google UT building codes, it'll pop up all the ones on campus, and it'll show you like the abbreviated code and then what it stands for. And also you can pull up on the Tennessee app a map of where all the buildings are, and if you type in the shortened code or just the building name, it'll show you where it is, and you can use GPS to get to it. So that's also really helpful if you are trying to walk your schedule for the semester. Even if you don't want to utilize like one of the college tours, you could just do it yourself with the Tennessee app or something similar with a map on it. Just check all your building codes. Like whenever they give you the schedule, they'll just have the abbreviated building code. And a lot of the times I would not know what building that was. So I would Google that, and then I would use the map, and then I would just trace my route for every day of classes. I also mentioned to not ignore your bus drivers, like get to know your bus drivers, because they'll get to know you if you use the routes a lot. Especially my freshman year, I used the hill route a lot, like my spring semester my freshman year. And I got to know one of the bus drivers, and he was the most friendliest person ever. He was amazing. When the fires happened in the national park down here in Gatlinburg, I live relatively close to that. We were actually evacuated for those because there was a fire on the top of the mountain over here. And I was gone for a couple days because my family had been moved to a hotel. We had been evacuated. And he literally, when I came back, he asked me if I was okay. He told me that he was talking to his wife about how he hadn't seen me in a couple days and how he was really worried about me and my house and everything. Super, super nice. It's so good to get to know your bus drivers. Make sure that you thank them after you get off of the bus because they are contracted from a different company. They're paid for by the school. And that's all they do all day is drive you around. So this one I posted on June 4th of 2020, and it's titled Things in My College Backpack. So this is just something I like to talk about because I like to be prepared to be on campus for the entirety of my day, especially if you have multiple classes in the day. I just like to be prepared, but I also like to travel light, as light as I possibly can, so that I'm not carrying around a big heavy backpack all over campus. And also in this video I mentioned just some tips for safety on campus, especially at night. Kind of similar but separate to what I mentioned in the transportation TikTok, but let's get into it.
Things in my college backpack that just make sense. Pain medication for headaches and cramps, bandages, lotion, shave cream, eyeglass cleaner, Germ-X, a mask, fingernail clippers and a nail file, my tile, extra hair ties and clips, chapstick, something to keep your drinks cold, headphones, student ID and credit cards in this pocket for easy access, keys in this pocket for easy access. I always keep a vented umbrella on this side of my backpack and my valuables on this side for easy access, but no one can reach in from this way and grab. I always keep a water bottle on this side of the pocket. Again, easy access to valuables, but nobody can grab from this side. In either one of these pockets, ladies, you're going to want to have pepper spray for easy access. I always carry a taser as well. Remember, tase first, pepper spray to subdue. Stay safe and get that education, ladies.
I kind of already talked about how I had my keys and my wallet in the side pockets for easy access, as well as my headphones. But in this TikTok, I kind of mentioned how, like, the other stuff I would have in my backpack, I would put in, like, facing the front side of my backpack, so that when I put my backpack on, it was behind me, but the first thing that somebody sees when they walk behind me is, like, either an umbrella or a water bottle. So my non-valuable items are the furthest away from me on either side, and then my more valuable items like my wallet or keys would be closest to me on the inside of that pocket. And that's just something I did so that nobody could, like, first of all, it'd be harder to see, and then nobody could, like, reach in and grab just straight out of my pocket. So especially, I do want to mention an umbrella. Get a vented umbrella. Because when you're walking in the rain, it's like the worst thing ever to have your umbrella turn inside out on you when you're trying to get to class and you get soaking wet, and then you have to sit there in class soaking wet. No fun, I know that for a fact. And so in this backpack, I had 4 different backpacks, like one for every year that I went to school. But in this one specifically, I would put like my smaller items in that teeny tiny pouch on top. So always have extra hair ties and clips for your hair, because it's the worst thing ever if one of those breaks and you don't have one. Especially if it's hot outside, I always like to have extra things to pull my hair back. That goes for all people if you have long hair. Eyeglass cleaner, like if it rains or something smudges your glasses, in my case, like always have something to spray and wipe your lenses off with in that small pocket. I always have chapstick because my lips get really chapped, especially in the winter. Lotion, because my hands also get really dry and chapped just from using them so much on campus. Chafe cream, because my thighs are big and I chafe when I wear shorts. I think I had gum. Also, I had a tile, so that is really good. I just put it in my backpack instead of just on my keys. That way I could track my entire bag rather than just my keys, like if my keys were separate for some reason. And tile is super easy to use. You just make sure it has a battery that's fully charged in it, and you get the app on your phone, and you can always find the location of your bag. So I would just put that in the little pocket and make sure that my pocket was always zipped up so that it never got lost, and you could track your entire backpack just in case. But I'd never leave your backpack unattended. Also, fingernail clippers and a nail file. So I don't know if this is just me, but I absolutely hate having like hangnails or chipped nails or like jagged edges on my nails. It's the worst feeling ever. So if you accidentally break a nail on campus, I would always make sure to have fingernail clippers just to cut that jagged edge so that it's smooth, and so that it doesn't break your nail further. And then a nail file, just in case like you don't want to cut it, you just want to make sure that it's like not sharp. Or if you cut it and then just file it down a little bit. Especially if you have your nails done like on campus. If you chip one of those, it's going to just be hanging there and it's going to hurt really bad if you snag it on something else. Band-aids, I think I mentioned. Band-aids and Neosporin I would always have in my bag just in case I got a minor cut or scrape on my hand or my leg or whatever. Just to make sure that 1, it didn't get infected, and 2, it wasn't like an open wound. A lot of like the library or whatever, you can get a Band-aid from there. But I just like to have them on me. So pain medication. I know I mentioned this in my birth control non-horror story video that I posted a couple weeks ago. But when I started birth control, I started getting a lot more headaches. This could probably also be attributed to the fact that I was under a lot of stress in college. So I would get a lot of like tension headaches like behind my eyes. So it was always good to have just some pain medication just to make it through a class if I was having like a really bad like tension headache. Hey baby, you went up here? Come here. Oh, she my baby. And if you are someone who menstruates, it would also be good to have some of those products on you, or pain medication for cramps. For me, it was mostly just for headaches, but if you're someone who menstruates, that would be a good idea also. Germ-X. This is not just for the pandemic. I would carry Germ-X with me all the time, even before the pandemic. So this is mainly because when I first started college, I'm kind of sensitive to like pollen and other allergens. So when I first started college, I got a really, really, really bad like sinus infection / cold that ended up turning into bronchitis. And since then, I've been really, really careful with making sure that I use Germ-X before I eat anything, especially on campus. So I'd also carry like antibacterial wipes to wipe down the table, like if I was gonna have lunch in the cafeteria or something. Just wipe that spot where you're gonna set your food down and make sure you Germ-X before you eat. And that kept me from getting sick for the remainder of my college career. So just taking that small little precaution really goes a long way, especially if you don't want to catch any colds, because it really sucks having to go to class when you don't feel good and you can't miss out on any class material. I'm gonna have hair all over my clothes. Also, just having a mask with you. I know the mandates are going to be extended for a little while longer, especially at college. So having that on you, a couple of them, would not be a bad idea either. So I used the Java Sock to keep my drinks cold, and it really works well, especially if you have like, say if you were to just grab a drink like before you went to class in a plastic cup, it really keeps your ice from melting for a really long time. They're soft, they're washable, they're easy to use. I've already been recording for like 42 minutes, so let's get on with it. So I didn't mention in that video like what I would use in terms of like taking notes or anything. I kind of do want to mention that really quick because by the time I was a junior, I kind of had a system down pat that was easier for me. It might not work for you, it might just only be a me thing, or it might just work for a select number of people, but if this does sound like something that would work for you, then that's great. So I would use my iPad to take notes on digitally, and the reason for that was because all of my products are Apple products, and whenever you have, it was easy for me to transfer any digital notes that I had on here to my phone or my laptop or anything like that. It's lighter weight, and you can always move things around. Like you wouldn't be able to do that in a traditional notebook unless you just erase everything. But you can cut and copy and paste everything to make your notes look more organized. Or if you forget to add something, you can just move it like a line down and just drop that in. And you don't have to carry around a bunch of like colored pens like I was doing my freshman year. You can just change the color of the ink on here. Super easy. So the app that I use for that is called Notability. And this is what it looks like. So I'll just show you a couple of examples of like the latest notes that I did. So like this one, this is for one of my biology classes my senior year that I did. And you can have the app draw these boxes for you in circles. And if you just hold it, like draw one and just hold it, it'll perfect it for you. You can do highlight colors, obviously different ink colors. And you can change the thickness of the lines, and you can change it to be like taper off like I have it here, or you can just have like one thick line, or you can do a thinner one. It was really good for like chemical equations and stuff because it's super easy to do and you can just draw freehand. But yeah, it's like, makes your notes look really pretty and organized. Like say if I were to just take this and move it down, I could just cut it, copy it, move it down. So yeah. Once I figured this out, I used nothing but this because it's just so easy. And you can forward these to yourself in any kind of format. You can make them into a PDF. You can make them into different documents. And what I would do is I would have a couple different backups. So I would take this and copy and paste it or move it into the Google Docs so that way I have an archive of all of my notes in my Google Docs. And then I also have it on here, and then I'd also save it on a flash drive. So I'd have 3 different ways of backing up my notes just to make sure that if something happened to one of them, I would have 2 other options to get my notes back. And also this is a really easy option for sending your notes to your friends. Like if you want to take this and send it to their email, all you have to do is share it and they'll get a link. And you can do that in Google Docs as well. Yeah, but that's just something that really worked for me, and the app itself is only like $10. So, I mean, I could spend like $10 on a couple notebooks through the entire semester and then have all my notes be separate. But this way, all of my classes were in one place. All of my notes were in one place. They were all organized. You can take pictures from the web, like from your textbooks, and insert them in here as well, and then make notes on that. So it's just a really easy way to do it. The only time I wouldn't use this would be like if the teacher recommended that we print out the PowerPoint slides and just write directly on the slides, then I would do that. But everything else I would just use my iPad for. I realize the iPad itself is an investment, but I asked for that for Christmas one year, and that's what I got, and I solely used it for school. And I had the Apple Pencil that went with it as well. Okay, so this TikTok was made on June 22nd of 2020, and this is another video of what I would suggest bringing into college as a freshman. Just a list of items to make it easier on yourself if you want to know, like, from experience, someone who has moved into a college dorm like 8 or 9 times. So, some things make your life easier and things you may not have thought about. Let's watch.
Here's another list of things I suggest you get as an incoming college freshman based on my 4 years at the University of Tennessee. I know some universities have vacuums that you can rent from the front desk, but honestly, having one that you can use at your disposal is so much more convenient. They're pretty cheap and they come in a variety of colors and they're really easy to use. Since you're going to be the one that has to clean the microwave and the mini fridge at the time that you move out, having some of these is going to be really, really helpful. They're cheap, they're easy to use, and they get the job done really, really quick. They're also great to use to clean your dry erase boards. Another thing I highly recommend are batteries. I even recommend carrying some of these with you at all times because you don't want one of these dying in the middle of your class, or your calculator for that matter. Another thing I highly, highly recommend is a vented umbrella, not just a regular umbrella, because these will not turn inside out when you're walking across campus. One of my favorite things to use while doing laundry is an InWash scent booster because those washers can really stink. My personal favorite is the pink one. Have a great semester and like for part 3.
Okay, so I've already mentioned the InWash scent boosters that I talk about in this video, and they're Downy brand. So, my bad. They're Downy brand, and I also already mentioned the vented umbrella. But there's a couple other things in this video, like for sure batteries. That's just one thing that I just didn't really think about as a freshman when I was moving in. UT, and I'm assuming a lot of other schools will use what are called clickers. And it's basically a way to take attendance in your classes. So a portion of the lecture time would be used to basically poll the class with your clicker. So every lecture has a different channel, so they will tell you like what channel to turn your clicker to. You just type it in like a remote control, and it will link to the professor's computer. And then you just click in your answer based on the poll on the screen, and it will record your answer, and a lot of professors will use that as like lecture attendance points. And they'll count how many you get right or wrong. And it'll just, most of the time, just be questions from the lecture material, either from that day or the day before. And a lot of professors will use these. You also have to buy the clicker, like your freshman year, you have to buy a clicker. And you can sometimes get them used if they haven't upgraded the model that they use like currently. But the clicker itself, I don't remember how much I paid for it. I think maybe $30 or something. But then they get you on, you have to buy a subscription for the clicker. So my freshman year, I had to buy a 4-year subscription, and it was like $130 or something outrageous. And then on top of that, I had to also buy my clicker. But just recently, like just maybe 2 years ago or last year, I think it was in 2019, UT started providing the subscription for free, kind of like it's within your tuition. So like you pay tuition and you automatically get a subscription for the clicker. So then I had 2 subscriptions, and one of them I had paid for and the other one was just included in the cost of tuition. So that kind of sucked. But the you always want to make sure like that you check the battery in your clicker every so often, or at least have some extra batteries on you just in case, because the worst thing ever is to be in class but not counted as present because your clicker doesn't work. So yeah, and also your calculator, make sure that you have enough batteries for your calculator because you don't want that to die either. And what they don't tell you until you get into class a lot of the times is that like the lower level chemistry classes, like chemistry like 100 or 120 or 130 at UT, and even some of the upper level ones will require you to have a non-graphing calculator for exam. So I had a graphing calculator, and then I had like one from the Dollar Tree that was a non-graphing, just straight regular calculator. So I had two separate things of batteries for those, and you would have to bring the non-graphing one to exams with you to do the math on the tests. So that's something also to keep note of. Like if some upper level math classes require you to have a graphing calculator and some of your chemistry classes require you to have a non-graphing calculator, you're going to need batteries for both, and you might want to carry both with you at all times just so you don't forget. But the UT library has calculators for rent, and they also have computers for rent just in case. Okay, so I also mentioned a vacuum in this video. I did get like one of these little vacuums from Walmart that are like $20 just to have in my dorm. So at the dorm that I was staying, you could rent a larger vacuum from the front desk for like move out and stuff. But I like to vacuum periodically just because it makes the room look so much better. It's not dirty all the time. If you like spill something, you want to vacuum it up. Like it's just part of my cleaning routine. So I would vacuum like once or twice a week just using this little handy one because there's not very much obviously surface area to cover in a small dorm. And it's easy to clean out, and they come in different colors, and it's just easier just to have one on you rather than having to lug a big one from the front desk all the way down to your dorm. I think I also mentioned in this video that they don't tell you that you have to make sure that you clean everything before you move out, or they will charge you a cleaning fee. So what I thought was helpful was to get some cleaning sprays, like some Lysol cleaning sprays and some magic erasers just to clean the inside of the microwave and the fridge. The microwave would always get really nasty, especially if there's 2 people using it or however many in your dorm. And then it wipes off easy, and then I would also use the magic erasers to wipe off the dry erase boards because the ink comes off easier with a magic eraser. So if you're going to use like a dry erase board to plan your week or your month or whatever, just grab a couple magic erasers. You can get them cheap at the Dollar Tree or wherever, and just use those to wipe and clean your stuff off with. Also, if you're going to hang anything, I would highly recommend command strips rather than anything else. They make big ones or smaller ones to hold whatever amount of weight you need them to, and they peel off really well. The only problem I ran into was the fact that the paint on my dorm was like brand new. So one of them did end up peeling a little bit of paint off, but I don't think they charged me for it. So just keep that in mind if you're living in like a brand new dorm with fresh paint. That might not be the best option. But otherwise, I don't see any problem with using those. I also have a video about things that I ended up not using that I brought with me my freshman year. So if you're someone who wants like an anti-haul, this video is for you.
And while we're at it, here's a list of things that I did not use during my 4 years at the University of Tennessee. Remember, these are just suggestions. If you want to use these, obviously I'm not going to stop you. These are just things in my personal experience that I did not use. The first one is a printer for my room. I honestly did not use this. They're expensive, the ink is expensive, it runs out really quick. It was just easier for me to use the printer in the library. As far as decorations go, I did see a lot of my roommates put up curtains in their closets. Honestly, I just ended up moving them around so often that I just did not need them. Another thing with decorations, rugs, they just get in the way, they make the room look so much smaller, I would just pass. I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate from this one, but planners, I actually used a planner when I was like a freshman or sophomore. I just eventually just stopped, and I preferred using whiteboards. I might get hate for this one too, but any instrument, I actually play 5 instruments and I did not play any of them during my college years.
My dorm room had just like those kind of cheaper plastic turn blinds. That was enough to block out any kind of sunlight, like if I was going to take a nap in the middle of the day or anything like that. Or if I just wanted some privacy, since my dorm was on the first floor for a couple of semesters and you could see people walking like back and forth. that was enough for me. I didn't need curtains or anything to cover the blinds. You can for decoration, I suppose, but then you run into the problem of how are you going to hang up the curtain rod and not damage the walls, stuff like that. And you know, like maybe your roommate doesn't want a curtain on their side and then it looks weird, you know. And then the same thing with the closets, like people would hang curtain rods over their closets to kind of cover like their clothes and stuff. I just feel like it would just get in the way, you know, like you have to constantly move it. Like I know it looks cleaner to cover your closet and the stuff in the bottom of it and everything. But again, you run into the issue of hanging the curtain rod, finding a curtain that's long enough to cover your entire closet, and then just it getting in the way. So I just found it a little bit counterproductive for me personally, but if that's something you're into, go ahead. Rugs was another thing. So there were a lot of companies that you could just pay a flat fee and they would deliver a rug to your room. Like you just pick out a rug and they would deliver it to your dorm room, and you give them the dimensions of your room and everything. I feel like this is more so geared towards those who don't already have carpet in their dorm room. Like if you have like a concrete floor or something, maybe you'd want a rug. But since we already had carpet, I just thought that was a little bit counterintuitive, 1. 2, you have to plan with your roommate, like whether or not you both want a rug. And I just randomized my roommates all 4 years. So I didn't know any of them beforehand. They just, to me, they make the room look smaller unless maybe your floor is concrete. So, and then you have to move all your furniture around to get the rug where it needs to be. So, I don't know. I would just forgo that if I were you. Obviously, if that's something you want to go for, just to make the room look complete and homey, then go for it. If you want a smaller one just for your side, go for it. But I would just skip having to pay all that money to have one delivered if you already have carpet, especially. Okay, so the first thing I mentioned in this video was a printer. So I didn't buy a printer for my room just because they're so expensive and the ink only lasts for like a couple pages, and then you have to buy more ink, and the ink is more expensive than the printer itself a lot of times. Like you spend more on ink. So it was more economic for me just to put a couple dollars on my vol card and just print at the library, because it was like 3 cents a page or whatever for black ink, and I would just print all of my syllabi there, and anything that I needed, I would just plan a couple minutes out of my day, like either before or after my classes, just to stop by the library and print out what I needed to have printed out. And UT has like stations where you can load more money onto your vol card, because there's 2 separate accounts. There's one for dining and there's one for like printing and other things. So just put a couple dollars onto your printing, onto the printing side of your account. And you can do that electronically as well. You don't have to use the machine that's in the library. And just use that, and I would put like $10 or $15 and it would last me like a year for printing. And I mean, it does involve a little bit more planning on your part if you're going to stop by the library at a certain time before or after classes to make sure you have your assignments printed out. So just for the convenience, it might be nice to have a printer in your room, but like I said, it's just economically better, I thought, just to pay 3 cents per a page. Then have to buy ink constantly. And then I always have that problem where I can't get anything to connect to my printer. Like if it's a Wi-Fi, like Bluetooth printer or whatever, I could never get any of my devices to connect. So it just takes all the guesswork out for me. I think I mentioned instruments in this video also, which I play 5 instruments personally, but I never had the time to play any of the instruments that I ever brought. Like I brought my guitar my freshman year, and I never had the time to play it. And even if you do, then you have to take into consideration that your roommate is there and they might want some quiet in the room. You can also hear it a lot of the times, like outside of your room, like through the door in the hallway. And I don't know, this probably varies from dorm to dorm, but we had like quiet hours and we couldn't be super loud. Like past a certain time, we couldn't make any noise at all. So, and that also goes for like finals week. We'd always have quiet hours for 24 hours a day. So you just have to be considerate of your roommates and people in the hall with you, with your noise level. And that includes instruments. So it might just be something that you do on the weekends or something like that just to make time for it. I mean, obviously make time for your hobbies, but I just personally never had the time to play any of my instruments. So a physical planner. I did end up using planners like my freshman and sophomore years of college, and they did work for me. But again, it was just another thing for me to carry around in my backpack. If you have a smaller one, that's probably not that big of a deal. But I just like to travel as light as possible. I just found that like writing it down a whole bunch of times just took more time out of the day for me rather than just doing it. It was nice like to write all of my stuff in my planner at the beginning of the semester just to plan out what my days would look like based on the classes I had that semester. But aside from that, and like writing down exam times and quiz times, everything else I would just leave out of the planner. And I found it easier for me visually just to see my entire month planned out, and that is what you saw in the previous TikTok with the month planner, like the dry erase board. And it was just easier for me just to see the whole month, and then I would see it every day because it was just out in the open. So if that's something that's more your speed, then that would just be easier, and then you don't have to carry it around and you can just write on it. Yes, I have one more, and this is just another continuation of the list of things I think you should get as a freshman. And this was posted on July 14th of 2020.
Hi guys, I'm back with another list of things I suggest you get as an incoming college freshman. And the first one is for all my short girls or guys. I'm 5'1", and so I needed a step stool to actually get onto my lifted bed. This was also good for hanging decorations, so that's a plus. The second one is a mattress cover. This was pretty comfortable, but it ended up tearing and staining, so I just threw mine away. This one's your call, but I honestly liked mine. The third one is a fan. My air actually ended up going out quite a few times, and this was a lifesaver, especially during the summer. And for the winter months, this was also a lifesaver, especially if your roommate likes the dorm room cold. This was a necessity for me, extra storage. The brown dresser on the right is the one that I personally bought, and this was good for storing clothes, books, cups, and any other things. Next is a trash can. My dorm room only came with one trash can for my roommate and I to share, which was not enough. Also, do not forget trash bags. If you're like me, you might want to eat in your dorm room quite often, so don't forget silverware, plates, and cups. Also, if you get plastic plates, do not forget dishwashing soap. Like for part 4.
In this video, I should have just said people. I'm trying to like alter my language to be a little bit more inclusive. So a step stool for any short people coming into college. I am 5'1", so I had to have the step stool to get onto the bed because my bed was lifted. And I still use the stool like in my house today. So it's obviously not something you just use like a couple times and throw away. Like it's useful to me still, so it's a good investment. Also in this first picture, I included a mirror. So I had like one of those little rotatable mirrors I would use to do my makeup like before class and everything. And that was really useful to me as well. Also, I would just put like my jewelry just in the bottom of it in that little like holder. And that was really useful. I also had a desk lamp, so like I like low light in my room. Like this is actually the lamp that I had in my dorm room. I just like low light in my room, so I would just turn the lights off and just have like my salt rock or my lamp or both just to do homework by, and that would just like calm me down and make it easier for me to focus and concentrate on my homework and stuff. Or just the light of the TV or whatever. I just like dim lights. So, and like if my roommate was sleeping or something and the lights were off, this would be an easy way just to do my homework in a little bit of low light or do my makeup or whatever. I also mentioned a mattress cover. So I got a mattress cover my freshman year, and I used it for a couple years after that, but from sliding off of the bed so much, it kind of like tore and folded and turned different colors and stuff, so I just ended up tossing mine because it was just ripped from me sliding off of the bed so many mornings. But I mean, they are comfortable. The mattresses are just twin mattresses that are kind of hard and stiff, so if you like something a little bit softer, I would definitely go for a mattress cover. But do keep in mind you'll probably have to replace it at some point. Okay, so a standing fan. The reason I suggest this is because, once again, relatively new dorm room, but my air went out at least 5 times a semester for some reason. I think the power did end up going out a couple times just on the east side of campus, and I think it's just because UT needs to update their power grid. Or like they would do something and they would trip the electricity and the power would go out, and then we wouldn't have any air, and my air conditioner just would stop working, so like it would need to be reset by a maintenance person. So that happened a lot in my dorm room. So it was really nice, like if my power went out in the middle of the night, or if the air stopped working like later in the day when the maintenance people were off, it was nice just to have something just to turn on, or if it was like a super super hot day, just to turn it on really quick and cool off. So yeah, it was definitely a lifesaver when my power went out like in August and I didn't have any air. And like if you were someone who sleeps hot, it just would be nice to have a fan that you can face like towards your bed, so that your roommate can have, like, they can stay warm but you can have some air on you. Also the heated blanket, I usually run cold, so it was really nice to have like a cozy blanket just to wrap up in if my roommate like wanted the room colder. Like the air in my dorm room would only go down to 68, but that's still pretty cold for me. So it was nice, like if my roommate wanted, like strictly wanted the room to stay on 68 all year round, it was nice to have like a heated blanket on my side so that we could both sleep comfortably. So extra storage was a necessity for me all 4 years of college. They provide you with 2 dressers, so like one big dresser for your clothes and a small one for like your smaller things. And the smaller one had a little latch that you could lock, so you could put your personal belongings in there and lock them. And then obviously the closet has some space in the bottom and on the top that you can store stuff. But I liked to have one of these little dressers for like my books. I'd put my books in the bottom of it, and I would take the ones that I needed with me to class, and the rest I would leave in the bottom. Paperwork, just random items, cups, plastic plates, anything like that. Just so I could free up more space in my dresser for actual clothes or other things. So yeah, that was definitely a necessity for me all 4 years, and I still have it somewhere. A trash can. My dorm room only came with 1 trash can for my roommate and I to share, like I mentioned in the video. So I just bought another one so that my roommate could have the one that the dorm came with, and I would just use my own personal trash can. Do not forget trash bags is another thing, because I had many roommates that would end up having to use like Walmart grocery bags that didn't fit in the trash can because they forgot trash bags. And UT has separate bins for recycling and for trash, so I would always put all my plastic things and recyclable items in the reusable like compost bin that they provide. They provide each roommate one with a handle so you can take it back and forth to the trash room. And I would take that out with my trash. I always made sure to take my trash out every Friday before I left for work, so that none of my trash would stink in the dorm room. Another thing that I really liked, so you're not allowed to have candles in your dorm room for fire safety reasons. So how I got around that was I would get some of those Yankee Candle room sprays. My favorite one of all time is Coconut Beach. It smells so good. And I would just spray a couple sprays of that onto the carpet or onto like soft things so that it would cling to the soft fabric, and it would smell so good, especially like right after you vacuum and wipe down everything. It's so nice just to have that like good smell on top of everything. And I would do that especially like right before room inspection. So like your RAs would inspect your room like twice a semester or whatever for like things you're not supposed to have, like candles. So I would just make sure it smelled really nice and was clean and everything was up off the floor anytime they would come and inspect my room. But yeah, that one's my favorite one of all time, and a good investment too, because they're only like $8. I got some like reusable, like thicker plastic bowls and plates that I would like heat my food on in the microwave. And then I would just get some forks or whatever that you could wash or just throw away. And like plastic cups and stuff I could reuse. And also don't forget dish soap, because when you use these, you're gonna have to wash them, and you could just take them to the kitchen and they have like a big sink in there. You can just do all your dishes in. I would do that again like once or twice a week, like especially on Fridays before I would leave to come back home, so that none of my dishes were stinking over the weekend. But yeah, so don't forget, if you're going to use reusable dishes like I did, I would just store them in my extra space drawer and make sure I wash them and bring dish soap. Okay, so I posted this on August 8th of 2020. And I think this is the last TikTok I have school related. If I have any other suggestions, I'll just put them in, edit them while I'm editing this video. but I've already talked for a really long time, and this might not even be super relevant right now because we're in April, so maybe like watch this in the summer.
Here's a list of things I suggest you get as an incoming college freshman based on my 4 years at the University of Tennessee, Part 4. The first one is this concentrated room spray by Yankee Candle. My personal favorite is Coconut Beach, but since you can't have candles in your room, this is a great alternative. Another thing I would suggest is a hamper with a removable insert. It's lightweight and easy to carry to the laundry room, and it's washable. We all know from Part 1 that I am a huge supporter of thread wallets, and I just realized that they have chapstick holders, so of course I went immediately and bought one. They also have patterns that resembles UT's checkerboard, so of course I have a bunch of those as well. If you're like me, having a dry erase calendar is really great for me to visualize my entire month ahead. Another thing that made my room really cozy was this salt rock that my brother got me for Christmas. It really brightened the entire room and made it really cozy at night. Another thing that I really liked just for fun was this felt letterboard. I put mine outside on the bulletin board with the rest of my pictures as an introduction to myself. Also, don't forget mirrors, one for your desk and one full-length one.
Okay, so I've already mentioned a couple of things in this video, like the concentrated room spray and the whiteboard. I already mentioned the salt rock as well. It just brightened the room when I would turn the lights off and just create like a really comfortable, soft environment. For fun, the felt letterboard from Amazon, it was really cheap and just really cool and cute to have on the board outside. So a lot of dorms will have like a felt board you can stick pictures and stuff on right outside your room just to introduce yourself. And that's what I would do with the felt letterboard. It's just a cute little decoration to have. A hamper. So the one that I showed in this video is not the one that I had for the 4 years of my college experience. I wish it was though, because this one has a removable insert that would make it like 10 times easier to lug stuff from my dorm to the laundry room. So you're not carrying around like a big boxy hamper. You could just throw the removable insert over your shoulder and carry that downstairs with you. So you don't want something super big and bulky, like to drag down to the basement where the laundry room is. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you're looking for hampers. And that one just is really aesthetically pleasing and cute, but then it's easy and like effortless to use. Insert's also machine washable, so you can keep your hamper clean as well. Love that. And then I also mentioned the chapstick holders by Thread Wallet. I have one now, but I didn't really have one like while I was attending college. This was like the last semester of college for me, or like second to last or something. But yeah, I always carry chapstick with me, and it's easier just to have it like for convenience in that front pocket with my wallet, just to pull it out and use it. But I mean, if not, you could just leave it in the front pocket of your backpack or whatever. But I always have chapstick with me, so if this is something that appeals to you, definitely go for it. I would always make sure to try to get in touch with my roommate like maybe a couple days beforehand, or maybe like a week beforehand, about what we were each bringing to the dorm. I bought a full-length mirror my freshman year, and I was always the one to bring the mirror and the TV. I would always bring a TV with me as well. Just like an easy, like a somewhat small TV that you could just set on top of like the microwave or the fridge. And then a remote, obviously, for both of you to use. I also brought a PlayStation or like an Xbox so that I could watch movies or use Netflix or anything like that. The dorms did have cable, so you could plug in like an Ethernet cord into the back of your TV and you could have cable. Just a couple of channels. It wasn't anything like fancy. But yeah, the full-length mirror is good for like planning outfits. It's nice just to have a mirror in there. And then I had one on my desk for makeup, like I've already mentioned. But yeah, it's always good to coordinate with your roommate who's bringing what, so that you don't bring duplicates, or so that at least somebody brings one thing. Like you're not missing anything, you don't have too many of one thing. So it's always nice to have also a couple of cleaning supplies, like glass cleaner for the window and for the TV and your mirrors and stuff. And then just like some fabric refresher for your bedding and floor, some room spray, some Lysol wipes, either in your backpack or in your room or both, just to wipe down all the flat surfaces. And dishwashing soap, stuff like that, just to keep your room clean. Vacuum, I always had like laundry detergent and vinegar and scent boosters and dryer sheets and everything like that you're going to need. Trash bags, wipes, paper towels. Also, it was nice to have Kleenexes, both the small ones for the backpack and also a box for your room, just in case you get like a cold or you just want a Kleenex. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can think of. That is the last TikTok that I made school related. But yeah, I've been talking for way too long now. I'm gonna edit this video probably tonight and have it go up in a couple days. Let me know if any of these suggestions helped you, or if you have any other suggestions for anyone else in the comments, drop that below. Like and share this video if you liked it. Share if you think it's worth sharing. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.